In the tapestry of life, where every thread holds a story, America in Black and White emerges as a haven for the voices echoing through the heart of our communities. In this podcast, we wade through the rivers of our collective experiences, celebrating the vibrant hues of change brought forth by the whispers of hope and the roars of action. It's more than just a conversation. It's a journey into the heart of our society, illuminated by the light of those daring to dream and do. Join us, and let your voice be the melody that guides us toward a dawn where every color finds its place in the masterpiece of our shared destiny. Together, let's paint a future brimming with the positives that dwell in our minds and the actions that shape our world.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of America in Black and White. Tonight, family, we welcome a man whose life work sits in the intersection of discipline, compassion, and transformation. In a world where our schools are struggling to balance structure with humanity, where our young people are searching for guidance, and where leadership is too often reactive instead of visionary, there stands a brother who has dedicated more than 3 decades to showing us what excellence looks like in action. Dr. Robert C. Cooper II is not just an educator. He is a cultural builder, a systems thinker, a leader forged in the fires of real classrooms, real communities, and real challenges. From the band room to the principal's office, from alternative education to district leadership, from author to CEO, Dr. Cooper has lived every chapter of the educational experience. Tonight, we explore the man behind the discipline, the scholar behind the systems, and the heart behind the leadership. This is America in Black and White. This is season 4, episode 121, and this is a conversation you don't want to miss. Let's bring Dr. Cooper to the show. Hello, sir.
Good evening. Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. How are you? It's good to have you back.
Oh, it's great to be back. I believe last time we spoke, we were closing out the school year, and now we're getting ready to start anew.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, and we didn't quite get a chance to close that conversation, which there's lots and lots of good things here that I definitely want the audience to learn. But also, I think there's some new things that we'll be going through that that's new that you would also like to get the opportunity to chat about as well.
Correct.
And so let's start with the leadership evolution that you had created and started with the work that you're doing. Can you tell us what inspired you to pursue educational leadership at the administrative level?
Well, let me start by saying I didn't quite make it to the principal's office. I made it to the assistant principal's office. I was a music teacher, and then I became a band director. Music was always a love of mine. My father was a musician and a singer, jazz musician. I was able to attend college on a music scholarship at Florida A&M University. So it was near and dear to my heart. And I saw that as an avenue for many kids or students like myself to get into school. I believe had it not been for the music program and the connection that I had with my band director, specifically in junior high school and even more so in senior high school, I wouldn't have had the inclination, the want or desire to even attend college. So I wanted to be that for someone else. But what led me to educational leadership or administration was the fact that standardized testing, brought on by No Child Left Behind, uh, put pressure on the schools, administrators, and that trickles down to the teachers to what I like to coin as teach to the test. So
Right.
you had students trying to pass this test, not to say they weren't getting adequate education and lessons, but it was more pressure to answer the questions that may have been on the test, more so than anything else. And because of that, you've had students be taken out of art classes, the arts classes, I should say, and they were getting double dosed. They were getting an additional math. I believe they called it intensive math or intensive reading to supplement what was going on in their core classes normally. So in order to do that, you would have to remove them from their arts classes, and that began to affect my band program. I can remember often I didn't. The only reason I came to school was because of band practice. I went in band class, so I had some kids quite a few that could not attend my class because of scheduling changes, and they would have to come after school. And some of them had responsibilities after school, and those that came just for my program and many other arts, some weren't coming to school. So that bothered me for quite a while, and I ascertained the only way to attempt to change that was to do it administratively. So that began my conquest, well, my exploration, I should say, into administrative leadership.
So, as you got into administrative leadership and you knew of some of those changes that you wanted to make, were you able to implement any of those? And if so, what were some of the results that you were getting from those at this point?
Well, we're still in this age of teaching to the test. I think it became more prevalent once we started grading schools based on their test scores. I don't think that's well rounded. To me, that's almost like grading a student, and you're just looking at maybe their core subjects or one subject instead of the entire picture. So the pressure was still there, and there's pushback. I fought for arts during my time as an assistant principal, and we were able to thankfully keep our kids in art, but we still had quite a few that were pulled out for that double dose, and that's still happening today. The kids lose their electives in an effort to bolster. And I understand you want them to be, proficient in ELA and in math, but at what cost? But it's still happening, and unfortunately, I wasn't able to make a dent in it like I wanted to. But I am able to touch some, were able to touch some students and keep them on the track, even though they were missing out on some of their favorite electives. And I try to talk about that in my writing as well.
Wow. So, how did your assistant principal experience prepare you for your current work?
Well, right now, I primarily deal with discipline at my school, the dean of discipline. So I was always a part of the assistant principalship, but that would pull you away from other responsibilities, dealing with curriculum, maybe school personnel, maybe be actual custodian supervision, plant operations, things of that nature. So you were being pulled. Right now, I'm centralized and focused on the discipline, and that gives me an opportunity to do some counseling with the kids, to set up some mentoring programs and focus directly on that. I get to deal with these kids when they're at their worst, and it's part of my job to de-escalate and make them feel at ease, give them their time to decompress, and I let them know that I'm not upset with you. You haven't done anything to me. What happened was in a classroom with another student. We're going to try to get to some resolution and help them to understand the consequence and the consequences available. And I try to be fair with them. I think as assistant principal, it prepared me to deal with it, but it also didn't allow me to deal with it with full focus and intentionality. And I'm able to do that now. So both experiences helped me. The assistant principal experience helped me. And, I believe if I were to go back, which I'm not, I'm on a down. I'll be ready to hang it up in not too long. I would have a different lens of looking at it when you do it. If you have a million things going on and you have little Johnny that pushed little Jimmy down, depending on what you have going on, you approach that differently. I think I would look at it through a different lens now because I do that almost 100% of the time, and it's really something that makes me feel fortunate when I can get out in front of it. It makes me feel good, and I can, stop these things from happening, be proactive, prevent them from happening, fulfilling before it gets to that. And I have the opportunity to do that now, which I didn't have then. And the kids try because sometimes they have a little bit of apprehension when it comes to speaking with the assistant principal, the principal, uh, and they will come tell me, "Hey, such and such is doing this. This is going to happen in lunchtime." So I have a little more street cred, or hallway cred now, I would say.
Okay. So, what are some of the things you do that establishes this great rapport that you have with your students?
Well, and that's one of the things I talk about in my book. You have to listen, and I think sometimes as educators and adults, parents, you get to hear. And you remember Peanuts? What is it? Charlie Brown.
Charlie Brown.
Wah wah wah. That sometimes you turn that on, and you can't do that with the kids. You have to listen, even if they're dead wrong. I will sit there and listen to the whole thing because sometimes they'll realize, no, okay, Doc, I don't have to say anything because you heard yourself. You said it. That makes no sense. But they want you to listen. You have to be fair. You have to be fair with them. And I think you have to give grace. One of the most hurtful things that I've seen is a child, excuse me, especially a middle school, especially a middle school student. They're going through so many changes as far as maturity, emotionally, physically. I've seen, a adult berate a child when they're just going through it. They're crying, they're having a moment, and you, you would get so much further if you show them grace in those times. Yes, I know there are times people are acting out, but to me, showing them grace. I mean, I've had times where I had to walk out of my office, and I've had office staff send me students that are out of sorts. Go see Dr. Cooper because they know that's a safe space. Come in. What's going on? You all right? They don't want to talk. I'm gonna give you a moment. There's a box of tissues. Once they get it all out, sometimes you get that when I was young and mom would get me real good. You can't even understand what you're saying through the crying, that crying talk. So sometimes they give me that, and I wait. I said, just calm down, and we ready to talk. We can talk, and we can talk about it. And I think that permeates through the school population. The kids know, well, you can go talk to him. Why don't you go talk to him? He'll listen to you. He's not going to judge you. He's not going to tell on you. Now, if you're doing something wrong, we got to handle it. But I'm not going to the office and this, that, and we can sell it, and I can get some other kids in, and maybe we can do some mediation. I'll do that. If it's something where I need to get a counselor involved, I'll do that. And then I'll let them know, listen, this is something that, I think you need a little more help with. And so that trust, it goes a long way. And I think it helps even more with the siblings that come behind them because they tell you, when you get there, Dr. Cooper is going to look out for you. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't say sometimes kids come, oh, you still here? And I'm like, I never met you with my brother. So I said, okay, you're trying to make me feel old. It's okay. It's all right. It's time well spent. I would rather not go to another school because I feel like I would have to start all over with this and build a rapport that I have. And I think relationships and trust and having a listening and grace are more important than anything. You can be the world's best teacher and you're given a high level instruction, what we call effective teachers, highly effective. But if you don't have that trust and you're not willing to listen and build those relationships, you really can't go that far.
What leadership lessons did you learn from the superintendent's urban principal initiative?
That's a great question. Great question. I think the number one thing that I took from that program is that you have to be very aware, self-aware, excuse me, of what you don't know. And I think what happens a lot at the administrative level and in life is that the school system is a microcosm of what's going on in the world. You have people that will fake it until they make it, and I don't support that. If you don't know, then get someone to help you ask questions. And when I was in the program, I had a principal, and she said something to me because I wasn't versed, and I think this is something that happened. It's not happening so much now, but it happened to him. This is my 34th year. So for many of my years in the school system, black males, they were kind of relegated to certain responsibilities in administration. We're going to put you over plant personnel. You're going to run everything, the custodian, security, and discipline. And they didn't get that curriculum piece. And I was, one of those individuals that didn't get that piece. But I think from my background in music, I realized that I could play all of the instruments, but I wasn't proficient at a high level on all the instruments. My primary instrument was saxophone, but I knew enough about each of them. I could teach you, and I know how to get those groups together, and they would work on their own, and I could delegate. And I think I used that to try to glean knowledge, more knowledge with curriculum. So the principal told me, she said, I like the fact that I will ask you a question, and rather than to make something up and fluff it, just say, well, I don't know that, but I'll try to have that answer by tomorrow. So I learned to not fake it till you can make it, and also ask questions and ask for help when needed, and surround yourself with people, for the most part, that are smarter than you, so you can learn from them. You know what I'm saying? And I never think of ignorant or being ignorant of something as a negative. I think if you're ignorant of something, that simply means you don't know. I think, but being dumb, which I hate to use, is knowing you don't know it and you're not trying to figure it out or find out. And I think that program taught me that more so than anything. And because of that, I was able to be the assistant principal for a while, because the principal she saw that in me too, and she said, "Hey, I'm going to teach you, and I understand. You didn't get this piece, but the way you work with the kids, we'll be able to get to that, because that's the first hurdle. Once you have the kids that trust you and they want to work with you instead of
Yes.
they want to work with you, then the other stuff will come easy. So I learned that from the program more so than anything."
I've got a comment here, and this is alluding to our last question. I'm going to put it on the screen for you, and if you can have any responses, I appreciate it. She says, listening is the art. The art of this has been lost among educators, parents, and people. This is a skill we all need to develop.
Oh, that I agree with that 100%. And I'm not against technology. I believe it is very helpful. I come from us bubbling in grades. Remember, you had to bubble in your answer when we were in school.
Yes.
That's
Yeah,
how
with the number 2 pencil.
with the number 2 pencil. That's how we had to do it as teachers. When I got in the system, we would bubble in the grades, and then you have to submit them, and they put them through the machine, and then they would print out the report cards. And we moved to electronic grade books, and everything's on a computer now. And some people had a hard time adjusting to that. I didn't, but I understand that's the way of the world. But I think going back, linking that to attention, with everything that's going on as far as the iPads, the phones, social media, and all the attention grabbing things, it's hard for people to listen. If you go out to dinner, just observe and look around and see how many times you see couples that are out to dinner and they're not even talking to each other. Each of them on the phone.
On the phone.
And so the listening is not really there. And I think another thing with social media, and I'm guilty, I will watch some social media. I will attest to that. But you have an opportunity, if it's something in cable television, to digital streaming, whatever, you can just swipe and you move on. You don't have to listen. You don't have to spend that time. It's just a microwave type of society that we're in. So I agree 100%. Listening has gotten lost. And what I try to express in my writing also is sometimes you're going to get a bunch of nonsense, but it's the fact that you're giving that person, that student, that time to get it all out. That's going to go a long way, because it may not have benefited you, but it benefited them, and it's going to benefit your relationship because you gave them grace and you listened. And we don't do that. And I often say too, especially when things become adversarial. You're having a bad moment with a teacher or a parent, and something is said that you don't agree with. I think human nature for most people is to stop and deal with that. And now you're thinking, what is my response going to be? How I'm going to handle that? Now I stop listening to everything you said after that. That the listening mechanism is off, and those are some things we have to work on. And it's hard being human. So I like to write down. I'm old school because I know I have a short fuse at times with foolishness. So when I'm in those situations, I have a little notepad or legal pad, and I'm writing things down to make sure I remember what was said and what points need to be corrected, or we can come to some type of agreement, compromise, instead of just locking on to that one thing. I want to be able to continue listening, but I don't want to lose that piece, so we can come back to it. I try to write it down, but that's 100% correct. Listening is a lost art, and it's something that we need to work on. And if you do it in the school system and with your students and relationships, period, it helps a lot.
Now, Dr. Cooper, you brought up something that I have to ask, because it's been $1 million question for me for like these last 10 years. I know that times have changed when you and I were in school. And so now when you see these kids sitting up here with these iPads and computers in elementary school, middle school, and high school, and this is their way of actually doing the schoolwork, but no interactions. Do you see a disconnect there, or how does that work when it comes to the students actually really getting the human experience?
I think we've kind of aided in that in the school system. You have lessons and sometimes quizzes, and they say take out your phone or take out your iPad or your laptop or your notepad, ebook or whatever, and let's do this. They have cahoots is something that comes to mind. There's many of them, and the kids can engage that way. But I think it's deeper than that, because I have grandchildren. I have three, seven. I think I have 7, 2, and 4. So those are the ages. Those babies have been on the digital platforms. I mean, almost since they came out of the womb, and I understand it, because as a parent, you need that time that you can just focus, and that's your babysitter. That's your
Right.
baby. So I can't really fault the kids, because that's something that they've always had. I can go without my phone, and I can go without answering my phone, because I grew up with the with the analog phone. And remember, my grandma had the one we used to stick finger in and turn.
Oh,
And
okay.
if you weren't home, then you weren't home. If you
Right.
were on the phone, I remember before that you could click over, and they had call waiting. It just was busy. You couldn't talk to that person. And if you were real bad, you just took your phone off the hook and nobody can talk to you. So I don't
Right.
feel that I have to answer my phone, but I was raised in a different during a different time period. So these kids, it's man, to take that away from them, that's really a problem, because they had it for so long. I watch kids and even my own grandchildren, but out in different places, and that battery dies, or that child gets that device taken away. That's a problem, because it's become a habit for me. And then we buttress that by having all these platforms in the school system, and it's a business. I understand that. You're buying into these subscriptions, and you have to use them, and you're saying, well, the kids have these devices, let's implement it. So we're aiding in that faction of it, and it's a shame, because a lot of the communication is through social media. I deal with a lot of cyberbullying, things that are said, because in a group and with some anonymity, you feel encouraged. You could say anything because you're not held responsible immediately, and sometimes never. And kids will do that. Oh, doc, they said that in the GC. It took me a minute. What is the G? Oh, group chat. Okay, so and you have to deal with that. But that's the world that we live in. We had I won't say experiment, but because it's locked in now, we in my school district, we've stopped them from using phones during the school day and during lunch, and and it was all intention for them to talk more and engage more. And I knew you had your gamers. You take the device. You have some kids don't want to talk to anybody. That's just not them. They want to play on their games. And you had a group that played together. And then you had your people that would be playing or having social media conversations across the cafeteria from each other and things of that nature. But when we implemented that, we did see kids interacting more. You're gonna have some people still sneaking the phones, but they interacted more, and I think that's a good thing. I also think COVID did a lot as far as damaging the way our kids connect and socially how they get along. I think that homeschooling and the online learning, I should say, it did a lot for socializing in a negative way. It impacted negatively, I should say.
So, how do you define effective school leadership in 2026?
2026, I think throughout the years, you have to be able to adapt. And I think you have to be able to delegate and build relationships with your staff. I mentioned that in my book as well. If you have a relationship and you give somebody their why, because, Ms. King, I can tell you what to do and you'll do it. But if I tell you why you're doing it and you have some type of connection, a meaningful connection to it, then you'll do it in a different manner. And I think if when you engage your staff and empower your staff and get them to understand the why, they will do anything for you. And I think far too often that doesn't happen. People come in, they have their agendas. I'm only going to be here for a couple of years, and I want to move up and onward. And people get that vibe. Teachers, oddly enough, students, they get that before anybody else. They will recognize that you don't care about them, and they don't care about. They see straight through the facade more so than I believe staff does. But if you can do that, it will go a long way. I think that's still old school from the beginning of education. You have to empower, be able to delegate, and you have to inspire your teachers and your staff. You get them to understand the why and make the why meaningful for them, to them, and then you'll be able to accomplish anything with them. And I think that's really lost now. And I'm really concerned because I don't know if it's something that's nationwide, but I know in my school district, it's coming nationwide. We're downsizing because of charter schools, the vouchers. We're losing kids, and I think with that you're going to have schools merging, and I'm concerned about the leadership in that respect because now you're having you know administrators that didn't foresee, hey, now I'm going to have sixth, seventh, and eighth at a high school. I was dealing with 9 through 12. Is that leader going to be able to adjust or delegate or find someone? Because middle school is a different being. I'm just going to keep it real with you. You have to be special to deal with middle school kids. So you need to find someone that can assist you in that. So I'm concerned about that as it tunnels down the road. We had quite a few mergers this summer, and some schools closed due to that in my school district. So I'm figuring nationwide, that's a call for our leaders, our educational leaders, to be able to adjust and reach out and get someone to help you to deal with these new students, these new grade levels that you're dealing with. And you think about the ones that are getting the elementary coming to their middle schools. You got to be able to handle that.
Now, I want you to help us out with this because, when you mention charter schools, I've never been quite 100% behind those because our public school system that's meant to enhance and build that system is one that it seems like to me. So that's why I said I need you to help me out with this because it seems like from a systemic perspective that certain public schools are just being destroyed, where they're like totally not funding them. They're letting them fail. They're letting them look like just horrific little accidents that have taken place when that's not the case. And so now they come with these charter schools, which some of them they're making private. So if you can help me to understand, how is it that you grant a voucher that you have to still pay for tuition, but you got public school that's actually there to take care of the entire system is being destroyed. So it seems like everything is being kind of like privatized to some extent. Can you help us to understand how does that work, and are you comfortable with charter schools?
I have to get comfortable because it's coming, and you have to be able to adapt and adjust. Uh, what they're doing, the schools that have really low enrollment, that, like I said before, they're merging them, but they're also allowing charter schools to come into those buildings and use those classrooms, use the cafeteria facilities, use the custodial facilities. I'm assuming that we're going to have to deal with them. It's not happening at my particular school, but I know it's happening in the district. Use our security staff, and there is a dollar amount that the charter schools are providing
Mm-hmm.
for each student, just like the public schools have a dollar amount that the schools are budgeted, for their the students that are enrolled there. But I don't think that the money that the public schools are receiving is adequate, you know,
Right.
and that's going to be a problem. And I don't think people thought about the pushback from the kids that were there initially, and kids are territorial, and I'm hoping that the kids that come in, again, it's not at my school. I'm just playing devil's advocate, that the kids that are coming in, that they understand that, and they don't come in with the attitude that
Better than you attitude.
I'm, I'm elite. I'm I'm in a charter school. But you're in a public school building, and I try to be prepared and be proactive. So when and if it comes, I'm gonna make sure I have a plan to deal with that. I hope it doesn't, but I think that's an issue. Um, what I'm hearing from our school board members and others in education, that the numbers are down because of things going on with immigration, things people are not having children, and then the charter schools and the private schools. But I will say this: a lot of those charter schools, if not all of them, private schools, as soon as there are some behavior issues, they're gonna send those kids back. And I get that a lot. And that's not to say our kids are bad or anything. I would never label them like that. But public schools are equipped to provide the services needed for our more challenging kids, more so than those charters and those private schools. That's why the charter schools, and I'll admit, I had tried to foray into that before as an administrator, because I didn't think I was getting opportunities fast enough. So in the past, years ago, I've interviewed for those jobs, and I realized uh, the pay for the teachers is not the same. And while the administrators is competitive with public schools, you're not guaranteed that position. So tied into your position is recruiting. You need to bring students into those doors and put behinds in those seats. So that's a competitive thing. And I think that's the way we're headed with public school now. Where I am, we're competing with two other counties, two other districts. There's a lot of poaching going on, and I've never seen that. And this would be my 34th year in the school system. I've seen it as far as sports, and that's the way of the world we want to play. But poaching students, I've
Yep.
seen that. So right now, you're gonna have to step your game up, and you're gonna have to offer these kids something that others are not offering to get more numbers. But more importantly than the numbers, I just hope we're able to give them some really good education. You know?
My last follow up to this, because you said the one thing that I wasn't going to say until you just said it. And the reason why they're poaching students is because now these kids in high school are allowed to get NIL deals. And so, with that being said, and your state is one of the biggest.
Oh yeah, oh
Your
yeah,
state is one of the biggest.
yeah.
And so, pretty much all of these southern schools in the southeast region are all a part of that, where they're trying to whitewash education to clear it, to say now everything's about sports and competition. And now the kids are actually moving around like they are in college. So it's like they're their own free agents. And
I have never in my life seen the geographical transfers that I've seen this year. We've had kids come from California and Las Vegas to come play in my neighborhood. I'm not gonna mention
yep.
the neighborhood, but it just amazes me. And you're right, it's NIL money. We have teams that are loaded, and it's crazy because prior to this NIL, we not too long ago you had to go to school in your district, in your boundaries. That was open, so it was the wild west then. You had kids lived in another county coming over to play. I mean, your bus ride alone it should take you an hour and a half to get to school. But
Exactly.
now, but now I was truly amazed to see kids transfer from these powerhouse schools in Vegas and California and come play in my school district. I was truly amazed, and I just as an educator and as a person that's in the arts, I just have to say, yeah, we have money to pay these athletes to do this, and they're going to be here for a short amount of time. And I'm an avid sports fan. I love football. I often think about what would happen if I continued to play because I was much smaller than this, and that's what sent me to the band room. What would have happened? And so I love sports. I love watching football. I never stop. But we're paying all this attention and money to these guys that's going to entertain us for a few minutes or hour or two on Fridays, and then they're going to be gone. And we can invest that in our arts and in our schools as far as structure. We have a lot of things that could be better, and that's I think in every school district. Uh, as far as fortifying it, with all these violent school shootings and people coming on campus, uh, getting some better arts for our kids. 'Cause we're losing that, and we just we dump everything on the sports, and it's amazing that we do that. And my state is one sided. We do football, but we don't do anything else. We're not big on basketball like that, but football, oh my God, it's amazing. And I look at I keep up on social media and I see all these announcements and announcing a new coach, announce such and such transfer. I say, if you didn't know any better, you'd think it was college. But the one thing I can say about that, these kids are in high school, and there's money involved, and parents are going to gear them towards that, and maybe the students are themselves. It's a lot, and I think immaturity there, and you're being guided. But I'm more taken aback by the collegiate level. It happened. It's worse. There is more money there, but I think the kids are a little more mature, and you can make better decisions. I know money is money, but I learned coming up, all money is not good money, and
Okay.
these kids are making these decisions, or young adults, I should say, and you're going to some of these universities that don't have your best interests at heart, with the DEI programs being removed and becoming a bad word, and they're still flocking to the schools with that money. And I'm gonna stand on the mountain and shout for my HBCUs, but I know everybody's not going there, and that may not be for them. But there are other schools that are not doing away with DEI, and I think your consciousness should to take you there versus these schools that are offering these bags of money. And I know money does the most talking, but I guarantee you, if we were able to get these kids to go elsewhere, then that money will follow too.
Yes. I want to ask you this because you remember when you and I were in school, okay, and you know how you would have, in high school, we had to go through, we had to pass. But we had some students that were slower than others that would be in high school till they were almost like 20 years old. And they finally just gave them a diploma or a
Right.
certificate and got them out of school, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
This NIL situation in high school, like it is in college, these kids aren't getting an education.
No.
What they're giving them is money and saying, okay, they're throwing the onus of just having an education,
Right.
but they're passing them through. And they're passing them through because they want to win high school championships. They want to say, okay, we're distinguished as having these best teams.
Right.
These kids aren't actually getting an education.
No.
So with that being said, has anyone or let's say like even in situations like in your school, are the parents being educated to understand what these NIL deals are and what this money means and how they get this money? Because I think a lot of them are like just saying, the son is saying, I want to go to this school because I want to get this shoe deal.
Right.
They're giving them that money, and the parents say, okay. But they're not understanding the ramifications behind that.
Well, I'm at a middle school, so we don't have that issue. But I to answer your question, they're not not being, spoken to or given any advice of that nature. And sometimes it's on the collegiate level, you're getting some housing being provided and jobs. So it's hard to look away or walk away from that. But what I will say is, I think what needs to be included is the opportunity to come back to school and get your degree. I think they should. I know while you're there, you're on scholarship, but if you leave, you might have to take some of the money, so the cash off the top. Say, hey, versus this many million, can we have something in place? So if it doesn't work out, I can come back to school, and I can get a degree and I can do something. Because these folks are not looking down the road that far. They see that money. And I can't say that I blame them, but you have to think about the future. You're one injury away. And then people don't talk about the amount. There's two things people don't talk about. First, they don't talk about what NIL is doing to the high school athlete, the freshman that's coming in, the highly touted high school player, and they're getting looked over. Some of them because of the transfer portal. I can get this guy. He's seasoned versus developing you. So only the cream of the crop now are going to these schools with the NIL. And then the second thing is, there are a number of kids in the NIL that don't get picked up, and they're
right.
They just around, and they're there, and they have nowhere to go. And people don't tell that side. That side is not exposed enough because
there you go.
There are more kids in that position than there are that are making the money. I saw a story a couple of days ago where they were saying some of the quarterbacks that were not highly touted that came out a little bit above mid-tier, they're making less now on their rookie deal than they did in college on the NIL deal. And that's because some of what you said, these schools are intentions are to win at any cost. Now you're in the big boy leagues. We're not paying you that type of money off potential. We need to see,
yes,
what's going on. Now, what I don't want to happen, because I think NIL offered a lot of students an opportunity to go on to another school and get an opportunity to play, maybe get their grades together, versus plethora of athletes I went to school with and grew up with that maybe didn't hit the books like they supposed to. It didn't work out at the school that promised them that first that scholarship, the initial scholarship, the best scholarship, and their career was over. So I applaud the NIL and transfer portal. I should say not NIL, transfer portal, allowing these kids to be able to reboot and have a restart. I applaud that part of it. But again, when you have these kids think, and with high school now engaging in that, you're really giving these kids a sense of, oh, I could just leave.
Yep, that's the whole premise.
If I could do that in high school, and once I get to college, it's the same thing. But what I don't want to happen, because you can't kill a mosquito with a sledgehammer.
Right.
Because this thing is out of control, I think they're going to end up hurting a lot of the players' capability to monetize off of their plan, because they've been used in the past and make millions of dollars off of them. But what they're going to do, they're going to hurt these players' chances with them being able to move around. I don't think you should be able to go to 4 or 5 schools, not at all. But I think they're going to go ahead and start regulating it to a point where it's really going to affect these guys' earnings. It's coming, and I think one of the worst things in society is the need and desire to be able to control and have power. We can fix it. It just takes time. It's with anything else. But I believe that it's going to be a thing where these guys are not going to be able to move, but maybe twice, and the money's going to keep coming. I think it's going to go back to when we were in school. The money's been flowing. They just didn't get caught. Everybody didn't get caught.
Right.
I've seen guys when I was in college, man, and they have these cars, but no, there was no. So now it is what it is. But I just hope they don't kill the mosquito with the proverbial sledgehammer. And I think that's coming, and the kids are coming out, like I said before, high school level with these grand notions. Hey, man, I'm it. I can just leave. They're going to give me money, and they're not looking down the road to the future. What are you going to do when your time is up? And I've seen some stories where the kids in college are spending that money. And my wife and I had that conversation years ago when I was really banging the table for them to get paid, because I say they're employees. They're not really student athletes. We can put that student part in if we make sure we have something set aside so they can come back to school. But they're not really being taught finances, any type of financial stability down the road. They're not being responsible financially. I saw a kid spending thousands and thousands of dollars for gifts on his girlfriend. I mean, you tear your knee up, God forbid, next practice, then what? The girlfriend's going, the person's going, your money going. So, and that's something that I wrote about too. It's our responsibility to give these kids some financial advice, and so they can be financially literate, because the world it's built to take whatever you have if you don't know.
Let's talk a little bit about your work here as the Dean of Discipline, the work and the mission that's at stake. What does the role of Dean of Discipline truly entail?
Well, I get all the problems, but what I like to say is that I do more than that. I'm proactive in preventing things from happening. I do a lot of counseling. I do some mentoring, and that all goes back to building relationships and trust with the children. If I'm just the guy that you see when you're in trouble, then I'm not able to do all the things that I do. I also, provide some assistance with uniforms if need be, because they come to me if they're out of uniform, and all of the time that's not something that needs to be dealt with in a harsh way. All it takes is a little listening and a conversation, and you can find out what's going on. You're going to have some kids that don't want to wear uniform. You're going to have some kids that are not truthful. But if you take some time and you've been doing it long enough, you might get tricked every now and then, but it's worth it to listen and figure out what's going on, because I can't punish you for something your mom did, and I can't punish you for your mom's financial situation. That's unfair. and that's not your fault. Even with tardies, I try to talk to the students about that as well. And we as adults, we get frustrated. And I say, well, mom brought him to school 10:30. That's mom. If he or she get behind that wheel, then it's a problem. So you have to build that trust and relationship with them. And I don't believe in managing. The buzzword has always been classroom management. Management and managing means to control. I'm more of a creating and cultivating person. Creating is to bring something into existence, to bring something new, and to cultivate is to nurture and to grow. If we take that approach with their discipline, because I also think that people, educators, think, and I had to realize that as dean of discipline, well, that child should come knowing better. That's not always the case. What they're doing at home may not be, something that we do in the school system. Yelling out or cursing, that might be something they do it at home, and we don't give that any thought. So you have to create the behavior you want instead of trying to manage in that behavior that has become habitual. Let's create and cultivate the behavior. So I spend a lot of time doing that, and I think what goes hand in hand with that is being authentic. If the kids realize if you're being fake with them, you don't care, and building relationships. Say, nice shoes. How your mom doing? I met your mom, talk to your mom. Or if somebody tell me their mom is sick, and you can't be fake. It has to be genuine. And then give the kids praise. I try to go out of my way to praise more than I correct, but that praise has to be authentic. You can't gas. Like the kids say, you can't gas them up.
Okay.
Because I get them with that all the time. Oh, I like your shoes. I said, don't gas me up. And they just start laughing. So, it goes a long way. So that helps me a lot. And then you have to have the support of your school. Everybody has to be on the same, vein, man. We got to be together on this, and we got to be doing the same things. What's going on in Mr. X class, he's allowing this, but Mr. Wise. Now, I know we all have a different way of approaching teaching, but we have to be together when it comes to what's being allowed in your class. And then I have to realize there's going to be some instances where I just can't fix it. And you don't want to throw up your hands. You want to ask for help, and you want to find a program or someone that can help you try to fix it or help that student try to fix it. So those are the things that I really think help with dealing with discipline and seeing those kids that make a turnaround. That is really fulfilling. I think last time I was here, I spoke about a kid that gave me the business for 2 or 3 quarters of a year. I'm talking about the business. I was like, oh my God, what else can this kid do? And it had gotten to the point where I would call that parent, and she, soon I have a mantra, this is Dr. Cooper, Dean of Discipline, and XYZ. Like, oh, what did he do now? That's from his first year, maybe the first semester on. From the first semester, it was cordial. From that point on, it was always, oh, what did he do now? So when he made that turn, when that light bulb finally came on, and I called, and she went to, oh my God, Doc. I say, no. It's not, oh my God, I want to tell you that such and such is doing so much better. I'm so proud of him, and I'm proud of you. And she started crying. So those things, and I talked to him, because there was a while where I didn't want to talk to him at all, because he was just acting out, and I'm like, this is 8th grade. This boy has been consistently like this for 3 years, and he finally turned the corner, and we smiled, and I made it my point to talk to him and compliment him, but I think that made his mom day. I kind of felt a sigh of relief coming from her, and you have to reach out and do those things, because it not only makes the parent feel good. I like to have those calls that are for positive things, but it also gives me a fulfilled moment, and it's worth it. It keeps me going. That's my gas. That gasses me up.
So how do you balance accountability with compassion?
That's tough. But again, if you had a relationship with them and they know that you're fair, you're going to be able to do that, because I'm known for talking to you. I'll let you talk, and we go through it, and we crying, and I'm giving you tissue, and I understand, feel better. And if you're wrong, I'm still gonna say, now I'm gonna have to do something. I got to call home. You might have to spend some days home. You might have to spend some days with me. You might have to go do work detail, and it's a way of saying it, and your approach, all that finger in the face and huffing and puffing. And I'm a pretty big dude, so I try to keep my distance. I try to, sit and be accommodating with them, non-threatening, but I'm fair with them, and I'm gonna let you get it all out, and we're gonna discuss it. And what I like to do for the kids that are willing to do it, because some won't, I have them write when they come in, because a lot of time when they come in, they huffing and puffing. Okay, such and such did this to me, and I'm say, hey, come on. I have a slip, an interest and exit slip, where it asks a host of questions. What transpired? What do you think you can do different? Who do you think is at fault? Is there anyone you need to apologize to if you were at fault? And we talk about it. And once they've written in their responses, and sometimes it's still heated. I'm not apologizing, but it will say, but you smacked Sonya, but you don't think you need to apologize. And we talk about it, and he said, well, if Sonya slapped you, then wouldn't you want to apologize? So we get to that point. So accountability is something you have to work at with the kids. But if you're fair with them and you listen, and I have them write and speak to me, it gives them an opportunity to be heard, and they're more likely to be able to take that consequence. You're going to have some, again, outliers that don't want it, but it's coming. And the fact that I'm pretty much consistent, the kids know, oh, okay, you going to him and you did X, Y, Z, expect something. You're not going to get away scot-free, but I'm going to listen. And I'm going to tell you one thing. I get a lot of, how should I say, collateral or credit when I've had kids wrongly accused. And I don't just automatically go by what somebody told me. A teacher or a security monitor, I will go investigate further to find out. And once I find out, or a mistake has been made, such and such told me to come here and I didn't do, instead of saying, sit down, they said, and I found out it was a mistake made, those kids are like, oh my God, thank you. You saved me. You got a friend for life. So the next time, and I say, now you owe me, but you don't owe me anything as far as doing me a favor. But if you do get in trouble, I want you to respect the consequences that I'm going to give you, because I made sure I investigated this situation so you didn't get in trouble. Because I don't have a problem saying, hey, call your mom. Have your mom come out here and discuss it, and you'll probably get this reversed, or go talk to such and such. Because I talked to this person, they said that this didn't happen. Go confirm it, and you'll be fine. And that goes a long way with kids, and that goes a long way with adults. Anyway, kids are just very immature, inexperienced, tiny adults. So it goes a long way, and that helps me a lot in what I'm trying to do. And I reward them. I reward my kids. In middle school, for some reason, they act like they have never eaten in their entire lives. So if I buy some food, it goes along. And then I tell them I don't buy what I don't eat. And I don't eat, nothing against it, but I'm older, and that processed food, they say that changed it. But Burger King, McDonald's, I really don't go there. So, I get some Wingstop, I get some pizzas. That's still fast food. I know it's processed, but it's a little better to me. And they love Chick-fil-A, and I like the breakfast more so than anything for them. And they enjoy that. And I'm known for just bringing donuts. You've been out of trouble, because I'm more challenging kids. I track them every 9 weeks, and I reward them, unbeknownst to them. They don't know it. And I reward them for not getting in any issues, having any issues, I say, in the cafeteria, being suspended indoor or outdoor. And then I also reward the kids that will come tell me things so I can prevent, because our society and in the world, they kind of demonize what they want to call snitches. But, kids that come and say, Doc, such and such is going to happen at 2:30, and I'm on top of it, I can prevent it. I'm going to make sure I do something for you. And that goes a long way with them as well.
So let's talk about Dr. Cooper, the author. Tell us about your new book.
Oh, I actually have two. I have the Dean of Discipline handbook, where I cover a lot of what we just talked about, creating and cultivating desired behaviors versus management, being authentic, relationship building, positive over corrective comments, ensuring school wide support, and being able to realize they're going to be outliers, things that are not going to work out. And you can't throw your hands up. You need to guide them towards a program that can assist, and or find someone that can assist them. So I offer a lot of strategies in the book, uh, as far as dealing with behaviors. I break down the different behaviors that you should be, aware of, and know that they're coming. Uh, I speak about not trying to do what Mr. King across the hall is doing, because you're not Mr. King, and Mr. King may have a rapport with these kids, these students that you don't have. He may have been teaching X amount of years, and you can't do it his way, and the kids are going to realize that's not you. Like my kids would say, "You're not even like that," and they're not going to listen to you. So you have to be yourself. So I talk about that a lot. I even have uh, a breakdown of how we use forms to deal with education and I'm sorry, not education, behavior issues, and some interventions, things, a methodology of how to go about, creating the desired behaviors you want. Because I believe we're not just trying to manage them; we're trying to create these behaviors to help them be better citizens. Once they leave the school system, I just want you to behave when you're in my class. I want you to know how to behave and want to behave wherever you go. I tell folks, I don't encourage turning your back in your class, but you should. You should get to a point where you should be able to, and don't worry about things flying and what have you. So, creating and cultivating versus management is really what I'm trying to drive home in the Dean of Discipline handbook. And also, I have a second book. What you had a question?
No, actually, well, you could continue, but I was just going to tell you there's a question here in the chat. I'm going to put it here on the screen for you. And he's asking you, how do you deal with the anger issues of some students?
I think again, you have to find out the why, and not all the time. They're not going to tell you. You might need to have them speak to someone they have a better relationship with, but you need to find out why they're angry before you can deal with the anger. I've had students come in ready to just tear everything up because how the parents spoke to them in the car. They said some things to them in the car that they didn't like. Maybe I didn't eat last night. Maybe I didn't sleep last night. My clothes are dirty, and I don't smell like I'm supposed to. Oftentimes there's some underlying issues, and we have to get to the root of those before we can deal with the anger. And it's something that you have to really keep an eye on if you're monitoring your students. And I know it's difficult if you have these large class sizes. You think about me, I'm monitoring, hundreds of kids, but I watch, cafeteria, the body language, things of that nature. But you have to know why. Now, again, there are going to be some outliers. There are going to be some kids that are just angry. They have some issues, and then you need to find, some type of program for them. We have EBD class, emotionally and behaviorally disturbed classes that deal with the kids. Our ESC program, but finding what the root of that anger is allows you to then try to help and assist that child. And oftentimes you'll find that it's something simple that's angering them. And my grade level, the kids I deal with in middle school, they're developing emotionally and physically. So they don't know how to deal with those emotions. Anger is one of the things that they go to very quickly. So, an investigation, I would say, and realize that you're not. Some of them aren't going to open up to you, so you need to find someone that they will open up to. And you can't meet fire with fire. If they're huffing and puffing, you can't huff and puff. Both of y'all can't huff and puff. You don't have to step back and sometimes let them vent, because I'm going to allow you to vent in my class. I don't allow in my office, I say, disrespect, but I'm going to allow you to vent. And sometimes some profane things come out, and I know it's in anger, and it's not towards me, it's the situation. But you do some investigations and you listen to them, and quite often you can figure out what the root of it is, and then you can deal with it from there.
So, as you were getting ready to talk about your second book.
My second book is totally different. My first book that we talked about, um, the last visit I had was the Black Man Manual, and that was something that had been sitting on my soul and heart for a while. And then the Dean of Discipline is what I'm currently doing, and it's a big part of my dissertation. I was dealing with the same topic, discipline and its effect on reading comprehension on standardized testing. But the third book is it's just a labor of love. It's a book of poetry called Love Letters to My Sugar, and it's actually poems that I had started writing. I started writing, I think, in '06. I felt a little separation in relationship between me and my wife. It wasn't a large one, but it was one that was there, that was present nonetheless. And I said I needed to do something about it. And I've always been able to kind of uh, express myself on paper. And I started writing poems. So I would email. She's an educator as well, so I would email her a poem almost every day. I didn't know she kept all of them, and she gave them to me in a binder, and she said, you should publish these. And so, Love Letters to My Sugar is Labor of Love. It's a book of all the poems I wrote her during that time, and it's just a reminder that marriage is something that you need to work at. You need to be present, and you need to be there for your mate, and you need to be able to evolve and adjust with your mate. It's just like, in some respects, being an educator or administrator, you got to adjust, you got to evolve, you got to be proactive. I didn't want to wait till it was becoming something that would separate us before I did something about it. And I asked her about it. How did it make her feel when she gave me the folder? And she was like, made me feel special. And I hadn't seen her blush in a while, so that made me feel very good. So this is something that I think folks would really like, and can help you in your relationship. Everybody isn't a poet, but it's just a reminder that it's something that's anything that you enjoy and you covet. It's work. You have to work for it, and it's worth working for. And I think marriage is something that is just that.
I have another question for you here in the chat. Let me put it on the screen. And his question is, what do you do when a student guardian blames the school for low performance?
Whoa, that happens. That happens a lot. That happens a lot. Um, what I try to tell the parents gently is that we have team meetings and opportunity. Team meetings are, well, we have a team of teachers, let's say sixth grade, all the sixth grade teachers meet 2 days a week in the morning. And all of the kids in that particular grade level, they go to all those teachers. If we have two or three math teachers, all those teachers are there. All the sixth graders go through that team. So we have an opportunity for the teachers to come in, team meetings, at least 2 days a week, and meet with all of the teachers. And you can get any insight that you want on what the students are doing, any problems that they're having. Also, we have a portal where the parents can go in and access all of the students' grades. You can see in real time what your students are doing, how they're doing. Also, we have progress reports. So we have all those things going on, but what you'll have is parents that don't access those things because they just don't, or they don't know about them. So I impress upon them that we have opportunities here for you to keep up in real time what your kids are doing, and we have tutoring. We have, if you bring your child to school earlier, allow them to walk to school earlier. We have morning tutoring where you can come in. School starts at 9. We let kids in the building at 8:30. You get there at 7:30. We have tutoring for you from 7:30 to 8:30, an hour, 4 days a week. So those are opportunities that you can have to help out with the learning process, the educative process. But it all comes down to letting the parents know that they have access, and let them know that you're there for the kids.
So, can you tell us what message did you want black men to take away with from the Black Man Manual? What did you want them to get from that?
It's a lot. But I guess the main thing I wanted to speak on is that we're responsible for our black men and our black boys. Whether you're from a single parent home or not, we're responsible. All of these black boys and young men are ours. So you have an opportunity to mentor them, give them some words of advice, whether it's out in the public or in the school system, volunteering, what have you. We need to do that. I also talk about the importance of relationships, how we move in that area, respecting our women, how we dress. It amazes me the pushback that we are seeing about the bonnets and pajamas, and with our young men, it's a lot of the sagging pants. But what I write about in the book is if you were going to the hospital and your doctor had a bonnet on or sagging pants or what have you, would you want that doctor to work with you, to talk with you? Same thing with a lawyer, anything else. So you hold these people to this high uh, stature, but then your self esteem doesn't allow you to do the same for yourself. So we're responsible for each other. We need to hold each other accountable, and we need to hold ourselves to the highest esteem. And we need to be financially literate, and we all are not going to college, but we need to be able to get a certification, get a license in something. And if you want to be an entrepreneur, that's fine, but then we need to go about that, logically. We need to make sure we research these things and we get into them. If it's going to be real estate or anything else, we need to make sure that we delve into it as much as we delve into anything else. Because I think a lot of the times we spend more time, and primarily our black boys and young men, on things that are not going to be advantageous to us. And I know a lot of, my wife say, a lot of empty stats, the unimportant stuff I can tell you about, football stats, basketball stats. I was a musician at one point, but I know a lot of lyrics from a lot of songs. But you can put that energy towards things that are going to be advantageous to you. And I don't think we do that. I think the last time we spoke, I talked about our athletic events, especially Little League football in my state. It's called Optimist football. We have I'm talking about hundreds, if not thousands of parents that come out to support that. But we have probably 10% of that coming out to our PTA meetings, our open houses, and it needs to be flipped. So paying attention to those things is what I really wanted to harp on in the Black Man Manual.
Let me put this question here on the screen for you. He's asking, do you believe there should be a great relationship between students and teachers to get the best out of the student?
I absolutely believe that. Great may be a hard sell, but a good relationship, or a relationship at all. Because if they're just your students and they're coming in to get a lesson and get a grade, that's not a relationship. Like I said before, if you let those kids know the why and you believe in them, then they'll do things beyond their own expectations. I had band directors and football coaches that made me think I could do things that I didn't believe I could do, and I was able to accomplish some of them because of their belief in me. So relationship goes along with that's all I'm dealing with. I build my whole program on relationship with kids, and you have to have a good one with them, or just at least have one. Great would be wonderful, but if you just build a relationship, and then it's easy to do or to start by just paying attention to them. You pay attention to them and you're invested in them, then good things will come. And I find that when I was in the classroom, that those same kids, they will help you police your classroom. Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that in Mr. King class. You know he don't play that because they're invested in you, because you've shown interest in them and build that relationship. So you can't teach them anything until they believe that you care about them. And I think that happens in the workforce. You have people that I'm just going to get my paycheck, but they do the bare minimum. I'm doing exactly what's supposed to be done and nothing more. But if you build that relationship with them, they'll go further.
So, how did Love Letters to My Sugar come to life?
I didn't want there to be an opportunity for my wife not to know how much I care for her. And I was writing about things in real time. You know, I know most people, I would assume most people in a relationship have had conversations where your partner doesn't share everything or open up. Well, you should have told me that it was bothering you. So I write a poem about that. You know, I didn't open up because I felt this way, but no, I always, you know, love you, so forth and so on. And it was a way for me to express myself about past things, current things, and things that may come up in the future. But primarily, it was an effort to be there and be present in a relationship with my wife, and to make sure that I was able to evolve with her and adjust. And if she was moving away, I need to make sure I need to do what I need to do to get her to move closer back to me. And I think through poetry, that was my way of doing it. Now I'm still working at it because it's not a perfect thing, and it wasn't meant to be perfect. But she knows how I feel about her. She knows that I'm in this for the long haul, and she is too.
Let's talk a little bit about your community engagement in Black history. How do you define community leadership?
Uh, Present. You have to be present. I don't like these community leaders that are here when they need a vote on and your support, and somebody that's present in the community even when there's nothing to gain, and that's hard to find. And I really don't like those that ride on the coattails of others. You know, we're in primary season, and we have some politicians that are I support this person, and because I did well, you need to, you know, vote for this person because I think they're going to do well. But you showed me that you did well, and you were consistent for so many years. This person needs to be able to do that as well. So you need to be intentional in when you're in the community, and you need to be present. And I don't think we see that a lot. And sometimes the people that we're following, they're coming from, and not to say you can't be a leader from any, you know, profession, but we're following a lot of entertainers and what have you, and even some pastors. I think we need to follow these people not because they're entertainers or pastors, because they have our best interests at heart, and they are in our community doing well, not because they need us for something, because they know we need something. So I think that's how I kind of pick my community leaders and people that I follow, because I'm not a big fan of following people. To be honest, I believe in following the path. Now, if that person is on the path that I think is the path that I should be taking, then I'm following that path more so than following that person. My wife gets on me when I go to church because I don't like that Simon Says thing either. And turn to your neighbor. I say I don't like you know, it's not that I don't like to follow directions, but I like the path more so than following the person.
Well, I think when it comes down to that part of social media, I think it's kind of creepy, I guess, when you just think about it. But that's just one of them things that I don't know. It's kind of like it's the connectivity that they're trying to build, which is that same information that's collected is how they try to connect the dots for a larger scale. Um, what role should the schools play in strengthening Black communities?
Well, I think we and from my perspective, my experience, we've tried to engage the community more. And you know, we tried things like parent night, and we feed them, and you know, we got pizza, we got spaghetti, what have you. But I think we need to go out into the community. And the first place I would start, I hate to keep going back to it, is the football field, because football is rampant in South Florida. So if we get out these parks, and we can have some booths set up, and we can have some registration for tutoring and other services. But what happens is that's going to take somebody doing that without compensation. And when you have educators that are already making less than they should, the pushback is going to be, well, I'm not coming out there on a Saturday morning and
Yep.
and do that. But that's what we need. I think if we get out into the community and we bombard those parks, uh, and we get those parents in that good mood, in that environment. Well, hey, my daughter's cheering my son. They're more affable, and we can make some connections there. But it's hard to do. I mean, we have Saturday school, and it doesn't happen throughout the year, and the teachers are compensated. But you're going to have a hard time having educators do that. But I think that would help with the school going into the community, and in that particular space, that's where you'll get the majority of your connectivity right there, because those parents come out to support, even the practices, even if they're dropping off. But you have more time if it's a game because they're out there for hours. We have to do that, and I don't think we do enough of that.
So, can you tell us how has Black history shaped your leadership philosophy?
Hmm, that's a good question. One thing that I've taken from just not only Black history but going to HBCU is that I truly believe that we have to be, as a people, more prepared and hold ourselves to a higher standard. That comes from dressing, the way that you speak. I speak about that in the Black Man Manual. I don't I don't support. Oh, you're speaking white. I'm speaking properly. There's no black and white speaking. The way I speak at home with my friends is not the same way that I speak when I'm at work. But you can call it code switching, you can call it whatever you want, but it's the proper way to speak. So I think history has shown us, especially in America, that we can't afford to not be able to speak properly, not to present ourselves uh, respectfully as far as dress, and we need to know more and be able to do more than the people we're competing with. And we are competing with people of our own color, but I think history has taught us we're at a disadvantage and we're still fighting to catch up. And in order to do that, we have to go further and faster and be smarter about it. And history has taught us that. And the fact that Black history is beginning to be erased and not taught because it's under the guise of indoctrination right now is something that we as a people have to take responsibility for, uh, teaching to our own children, family members, or even mentors, because it's something that seems like with this climate that's going to the wayside. But history has taught us that you know our people, we have to hold ourselves to a higher standard to get even equal treatment and equal opportunities to other people in America. So, and that's not something that I've been indoctrinated with. That's something I experienced, and that's something that's happening. And it's something that will continue to happen unless we do something about it. And the only way we can do that is keep achieving and keep being successful in what we do.
What does it mean to lead with a social justice lens?
Ah, that's a good question as well. I think a lot of the time, I shouldn't say that. I think a problem that leaders have is that when they get into positions, they forget about the plight of the people that they're supervising or supposedly leading. And you can't do that. You have to realize that if you're making decisions without them in mind, they may do what you want them to do, but they're not going to do it well, and they're not going to be invested in it. You always have to be engaged and aware of equity. And I think that's something that gets lost when I'm running the show and it's my final decision at the end of the day. I'm the principal and what have you. I like to tell people, or propose to them rather, if a student came to work, I mean, came to school, and the principal and the assistant principals were in attendance, could that child receive uh, all of the education they need or instruction, highly effective instruction throughout that day? And the answer is always yes. I said, now let's flip it. Let's say the teachers didn't come to school that day. Would the assistant principal and the principal be able to provide that? No. So you have these people that you need, and if you don't treat them with any type of equity and respect, then you're not going to be able to accomplish anything. So a leader must be able to do that, and that's one thing that I hate to see, and I've seen it quite a bit, unfortunately, throughout my career, is that people are spoken to as if they don't matter, and they do, because you can't run this school without these teachers, and you need teachers that are invested, and just like you need the students to know you care and that you're fair, you need to do that with your staff. And I think a lot of that comes from the stepping stone philosophy. I'm not going to be here that long, so I can talk to you like I want to, because I'm going to do wonders, and you're not really doing wonders. That's like the coach that beats his chest and his team is out there executing. You helped, but you got to give you got to give all of the credit to the team, to players. So you have to give the credit to your teachers, and you have to treat them as such. And that's something that the great leaders have done. I've worked with some leaders that have never raised their voice, that empowered their teachers, and you see it because people that work with them, they went on to become administrators and become reading coaches and math coaches, and they moved to the district because they were empowered and they had great leadership, and they were led justly and with equity. So that's extremely important, and that's something I always try to do.
So, how do you mentor young black men in today's climate?
Yeah, that's cool too. Um, you have to understand that they're not coming up the way that we did. That's first and foremost. You're going to lose these kids, you know. And I call them I call them young bulls most of the time. My oldest son, I have a son that's 41. So you call them young bulls. I say you lose them when you say, man, back in my day we didn't do. It's not back in my day. I didn't have the experiences that these kids have. I didn't have social media. I didn't have the digital devices. I didn't have the music videos. I didn't have the wardrobe that these young ladies are wearing. I didn't have these things. So you have to look at it through their lens. But I still believe you can give them those old school lessons. Treat our women like queens. Uh, I don't believe that you should call a woman out her name, but I believe some of our young sisters allow that, and that's because it's been something that we've been doing for a while. It's okay, but if we can stop that if we stop calling them that. I tell them all the time, the giraffe always didn't have the long neck. The giraffe, adapted to reach the foliage high in the trees. So calling these women out of their names, that wasn't always the case when I came up. But I'm sure when you came up, you would have a bloody lip if you said some of these things that I hear some of these young men saying to the young ladies. And you have to approach that uh, the the materialism, and that's something that social media promotes a lot. Uh, Money. I got to add money. These young ladies are talking about the money they need to spend, or that you need to spend to go on a date with them, and the type of restaurants. Uh, that's something that they're dealing with. I didn't have to deal with. Our young ladies, for the most part, you had gold diggers out there. That's been something that's been present since the beginning of time. But most of these young ladies wanted time, and they wanted you to show that you really cared for them. So these young men and boys, they're having a different obstacles than we had, but we still can teach them, because like the giraffe adapted, these young ladies will adapt if you have these certain values that you hold hard to, and you're going to get the woman that you want and compete with if you hold hard to them. But they're not going to adapt if we don't adapt. If you keep throwing the money and doing this and talking to them, then they're going to accept that, and that's where we're going to be. So that's one of the things that you have to be able to discuss with them, and meet them where they are. Finances, We still don't speak to them. I mean, my parents taught me about, allowance and how you're supposed to save money, but I was never good at that. And as an adult, I had to wrap my arms around that. I was, I think what was driven home more so was, you know, being clean, make sure you're upstanding, you don't lie, you don't steal, things are disrespectful. But I think we really need to impress upon them financial literacy, very much so.
Final question for you. What does the future of Black education look like to you?
Twofold. I think in the public school, unless there's a change in the climate and in the politics, it's something that is going to be hampered by not teaching the full complement of what America has been, both its good and its bad. Because if you learn something, you're supposed to learn all aspects of it. I think that if that continues, then the onus will be upon us to educate our children and teach them the things that are not being taught. Um, Privately, I don't think that's an issue. I think the issue becomes when politics bleeds its way into these private institutions. And I think we'll fight the good fight with that. But with public schools, I think if we don't make these changes politically, we're headed to where all of the history that involves us is going to be minimalized, or it's going to be just straight untruths. And I believe that is a motivating factor for me. It's been a motivating factor for my parents to know our history and to want to do better and to be proud and to motivate us to go further and achieve more, to go to these HBCUs or PWI and stand tall and compete with these people. Because whether you believe it or not, it's never been a level playing field, and we've never fully recovered from the things that occurred hundreds of years ago, whether it be slavery, Jim Crow, and redistricting, things of that nature. And some of these things are reoccurring now. So we have to keep our eyes open. I know people don't like to use that phrase woke, but I always say, what's the antithesis of being woke? Woke, that's being sleep. And if you sleep, you can't pay attention to anything. So we need to pay attention and make sure that we're keeping our eyes open to what's going on and try to help these kids that's coming up understand that they have to take on this fight. I'm getting a little gray in the hairs to be protesting or what have you. And somebody they need to take that torch and move forward.
Yes, sir. Hey, in closing, what is the words of wisdom and encouragement do you have for our audience? How they can connect with you via social media, your website, how they get your book, all of those good things.
Okay. My books are available on Amazon. If you type in Robert Cooper II, my books will come up: The Black Man Manual, The Dean of Discipline Handbook, and Love Letters to My Sugar. I also have an educational consulting business called Posit DJC. You can pull that up on Instagram. Again, that's Posit DJC. Words of wisdom: be authentic, be present wherever you are, be totally there, focused, and be intentional. And everyone deserves grace. Everyone deserves grace. And that's not to say get run over. I don't want people to say that know me, that's known me for years. He's not a pushover, but everyone deserves grace. Give them opportunity to correct any incorrect things that have occurred.
I want to thank you for being here and doing this part two to this great show, because there was still a lot that you gave us, a lot of information. That's a great learned experience, as to how we should take education. But more so than that, congratulations on your new releases of your books. Because I know last time we had briefly you had ran through those, but I'm glad that you were able to talk about those this time, because they really, as they talk about that one key thing, which is love. That's what a lot of people are lacking. Compassion is another thing. But I appreciate you for the work that you're doing in the school with those young kids that you work with, because it's giving them insight and it's keeping them on the right path. For those of you that are watching on all of our channels, especially our YouTube channels, if you have not yet subscribed, I ask if you will please support us by subscribing and enabling all notifications. And please, it will allow you the opportunity to get all the shows live, but you're able to go back and watch each and every episode that we have done, where you'll have the opportunity to learn the great lessons that all of our great guests have left here on the show. So tonight I'm going to close the show with this closing monologue. And tonight we witnessed the power of purpose. Dr. Robert C. Cooper II reminded us that leadership is not a title, it is a responsibility. Discipline is not punishment, it is love in action. And education is not a job, it is a calling that shapes the future of our community. From the lessons of his parents to the revolutionary teachings of Malcolm X, from the band room to the boardroom, from the classroom to the consulting arena, Dr. Cooper has shown us what it means to lead with integrity, courage, and vision. As we close this episode of American Black and White, let us carry forward the reminder that our children deserve structure, our schools deserve strong leadership, and our communities deserve champions who refuse to give up on them. Thank you, Dr. Cooper, for your service, your scholarship, and your unwavering commitment to our people. Good night, family. Stay inspired, stay informed, and stay empowered. We'll see you guys tomorrow night for another great show on American Black and White. I'm your host, Charles King, and good night.